And thank you guys for joining us for the Partnership Grand Strand Career Fair 101. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, my name is Beaver. I am the Workforce Talent Manager for Partnership Grand Strand, which is the nonprofit foundation of the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce. So my role is primarily workforce and helping our employer partners in the community get staffed and find talent pipelines. So one of the things that we're trying to prepare for is the Horry County Schools Job Fair, which is April 22nd from 10 to 1. So in preparation for that, we want to talk about career fairs and really talk about who's going to be at that career fair. So you have to know your audience, right? Each job fair, your traditional job fair may have a blended audience, but specifically talking about the Horry County Schools one, we're going to be focusing on Gen Z. But you have your traditionalists, which is your 78 and up, your baby boomers, which is your 55 or 57 to 77 age group, your Gen X, which is your 42 to 56, your millennials, which is your 26 to 41 age group, and then your Gen Z, which is your 12 to 25. Now, granted, there won't be any 12-year-olds, right? Labor laws, okay? But again, you want to understand who they are because how you may recruit them, how you may approach them at a job interview may be different than versus a baby boomer. So the Gen X is known as Zoomers now. That's their little hashtag there. But here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what to expect, who they are, tips to increase engagement with them, and what we're going to do differently at the Horry County Schools Job Fair coming up. So just talking about them, what they're looking for, a little bit different. They're looking for more of a social response when it comes to employment. So they're looking for equality. They're looking for social responsibility. Typically, they want growth opportunities, and they want meaningful connections with managers, right? So they're not the ones who are just going to come in, clock out, clock in, go home, back and forth. They actually want to build some type of connection. So when you're in your business and you're working with this generation, you want to take the time to talk to them, have a conversation, how you're doing, how's your family, how's school, those types of things to build that connection. What that will entail is basically it'll allow them to probably be a little bit more productive. You'll see them come to work more on time. You'll see them be excited about work. So you want to just do those little small things and keep those things in mind when you're recruiting Generation Z. And so, see if I can get my TikTok going. So typically what you'll see is the Gen Z group is more tech savvy than life savvy, where some of us may have a little bit more life experience. So let's see what TikTok has to say about that.
Hey everybody, I'm not late. You told me 9 to 5, as in come between 9 and 5, right? I can't wear this. This is office. It's Vineyard Vines. It's like $50. Okay, I'm gonna take lunch. What do you mean I have to wait till 12? I'm hungry now. Why would I wait till stupid? I'm gonna go now, okay? Psst. You got a jewel? Question about my check. I don't know who Social Security is, but I'm socially secure, so you can give me that money back, please.
One thing that we got to look at is this Gen Z is going to be our new modern day workforce, right? As millennials get a little older, baby boomers get older. So, we will talk about some strategies to kind of help recruit them and have a little bit more straightforward conversation with them when it comes to trying to get them employed. So let's talk a little bit about the communication and retention of a Gen Z person. So typically Gen Z, they spend a lot of time communicating digitally in their personal life. So, we all have those cell phones and iPads and technology, but when you're speaking with them, typically in the workplace that is, they prefer face-to-face communication. So that's something that you really want to keep in mind as you're talking to your, the supervisors that you're recruiting for. Remind them that, hey, when you have a Gen Z person, again, that face-to-face. So text, emails, things like that, while they're very good at it and they communicate well that way, again, from an employment standpoint, if we go back earlier, they prefer that sense of feeling, sense of belonging. So something to always consider. You always want to be honest and transparent with them. And so again, if they feel like you're hiding something from them, you're not telling the truth. These are folks that grew up in the BLM movement. They grew up in mass shootings in the high school. So again, trust is kind of a thing for them. So you always want to make sure that you're honest with them and transparent. You also want to be inclusive and in the decision-making process, because again, that fosters that sense of belonging in the employment setting. So again, from a recruiting standpoint, you may want to have a recruiting manager there with you or a hiring manager there with you as a recruiter at the event and say, hey, here's some of the things you're going to be doing during the summer. Here's some of the projects we want to help you or you're going to help us work on. So they kind of have that sense of belonging. And so let's talk a little bit about our booth. So we earlier talked about how we've all gone to hiring events. We spend about 4 hours there and we really didn't get the ROI. It was kind of a drab, right? So how do we get these Gen Z students to come to our booth to maximize our time there, right? So again, these folks are a little bit more creative, a little bit more social. So something as simple as a photo booth with the company backdrop. You don't have to get very fancy with it. You can just do, as you see in the picture up there, just a cardboard cutout, hashtag Britton Resorts, hashtag Kingston Plantation, whatever it may be, and say, hey, why don't you guys take a picture after you get done talking to me and put that on your socials, right? Because then their friends see it and they may come by the table and talk to you. So something simple like that. Balloons, games, which we'll get into in a little bit in a second, just something to create that interaction. So many times we go to job fairs and we see, like at the bottom left there, we see that person who's hating life, sitting on their computer, responding to emails, and not really engaged in the event, right? We want to make sure we don't do that because from a Gen Z perspective, they see that. And they may not be as engaged to come to your table and talk to you because they see that you're doing it, working on email, they don't want to bother you, right? So you don't want to miss that opportunity to get talent. So one of the things I always like to do is be in front of the table as much as possible. That way, when they walk by, you kind of have to be a little assertive. Hey, come on over. Come learn more about my business. Come learn about what we have here going on today. You don't want to overdress. So we get so used to being in a position where it's a job fair. There may be some older folks there. We want to wear shirt and tie. Think about who your audience is, right? In the case of a high school job fair, these kids may not have a shirt and tie yet. They may not have gotten to that level of professionalism yet. So you want to make sure that you're dressing appropriately. So, something like a casual shirt and slacks. Again, you are a business professional, so you want to represent your business, but a three-piece suit may intimidate someone who's looking to get a job at a water park. All right, and then lastly, have your swag items unique to your audience. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some swag. This is from my personal collection of stuff over the years of many job fairs. So when you're thinking about Gen Z, we always talk about how they're always connected and things they may like. This is something that very inexpensive wireless charging pad, right? You can get one from Target for, like $19.99. Plug that in, and while you're talking to that candidate, tell them, hey, charge your phone, right? That gives them a few minutes to talk to you, engage while they're charging your phone. Or something more simple like a spin wheel. If you spin that loud enough in a job fair, you'll hear that across the room. And kids are typically competitive. So, I want to spin the wheel. I want a shot at it. I want to win a keychain that costs you 99 cents, right? So it's not something very expensive, but something that will attract folks to your table. Even something like this. Pick this up from the dollar store. Just a little hockey game. When they start slapping the balls around, you hear that rattling, and people come to your table, right? So we want to make sure that the swag, the items, you don't have to spend a ton of money to be successful on your table, but just little creative things that may get a kid to want to come over and learn more about your business. Okay? Any questions about that before we go further? All right. And so let's talk about some tips to increase engagement. So you want to have an interactive activity like I mentioned. You want to simplify your job descriptions. So again, when we're talking about the amount of time you may have with the candidate at your table, 30 seconds to a minute or so to really engage, they're probably not going to read a page-long job description, right? Give them the highlights, give them the bullet points, and then you can talk more about the job during the interview. One of the things that we're seeing now in the workforce is that 60% of all applicants stop filling out the application during that process because it's too long, right? So if you're hiring a kid for the summer to sweep the floors or whatever it may be, you may not need a 2-page long job application, right? You want to make sure that you're condensing that. The other thing you want to think about is the hiring timeline. What we're seeing now in the workforce, and this is just average, is it takes about 20 to 25 days to hire a candidate. In that case, if you've gone to the summer job fair and you've met with 10 employers already, and the employer who gets to you the first is probably the one who's going to get you through the process of the one that student's going to go with. So you may be recruiting a student, and you may be in day 15 where someone's hired them in 10. So just keep that in mind. If there's anything you can do on your end from a process standpoint to decrease the timeline to hire those students, that would be helpful. Send someone with higher energy. I happened to go to a job fair a couple weeks ago, and I was just kind of watching, seeing what's going on. And a specific table, the person who was sitting at that table sat down and was on their phone the entire time. I didn't see them get up, I didn't see them talk, and every time I got up and just kind of peeked over, no one was at their table, right? You want to make sure that you feel welcome. If I go over and talk to Janina and say, hey, I want to check, here's an opportunity, here's the application, let's talk more about what your interests are, how can we help you, I know you're looking for summer work, have that meaningful conversation. People are going to start hearing that and they're going to say, oh, what's going on over there? The more activity you have, the more interest you're going to pique with folks at that table. You want to have a hiring goal. Typically that helps with that mindset of, you know what, we need to get 10 people today out of this event. So you're going more with the purpose, not just to be there. For me, that's a mental thing because again, if I'm just going to be there to participate, I may disengage at some point. We all know job fairs, again, they're 4 hours. The first 2 hours are high volume. The last 2 hours are kind of slow. So again, try to have that volume so you maximize, or that goal so you maximize your time. QR code, you mentioned earlier, you were saying that, you know, students are like, hey man, do you have a laptop or something I can apply on? Something like, like a QR code to your website may be helpful. You can have it on your computer, you can have it on a piece of paper, because again, they're all walking around with that cell phone. So you can have one student scan a QR code, start working on an application while you're still entertaining and talking to other people who are coming to your table. So just a useful tip that I've seen that's helped with us. And also you can start tracking how many people applied. What are your measurables there? And then you also always want to talk about why your company is a great place to work for. Just to give another example, another hiring event I was at recently, the company, this was their first event. They were a construction company, not going to say their name obviously, but construction company, and there were female students walking by, and they said, oh, you know what, you don't really have to stop here. We don't have anything for you. How do you know that? It could be, but me, the sales-minded person I am, maybe I give her a flyer and her brother sees it, or maybe her dad's looking for a job, or maybe she knows someone in the community who's looking for that type of experience, right? Every opportunity matters. That may not be the right candidate for you, but you're also given the opportunity to talk about your company, how great it is to work for, and other people that may be interested, right? So just things to consider. Here's what we're going to do a little bit differently. One of the things that we want to see in this community is that when we have job fairs, that we can report back out to you guys about what actually happened and who was there, that type of thing. So on our side with Partnership Grand Strand, we're going to track attendance so we can say that, you know what, it's worth the founders group to come out because we had 300 high school students or whatever it is. We want to give you guys those measurable numbers so you kind of know what to expect in the years past. I'm going to ask you guys for help with this. I'll send a survey out. We want to track how many students are hired. Again, just because we had 300 students out there, if only 10 got hired, is that a marginal event for you guys and for the community? So we'll be asking your help with that. Always want to encourage you guys to be interactive. So we will have a DJ at the Horry County Schools Job Fair to make it fun. He'll be doing some promos for some of the businesses there. So excited to have that opportunity. And then we're going to poll the students to see what the turnaround time is from when an employer contacts them. So we're going to put a little bit of pressure on you guys that, yes, the students are there, but how long did it take for you to contact them? Because sometimes we get feedback as, you know what, I was at this job fair and no one called me back for 30 days and I already found a job. So we want to make sure that we're following up with the students as well to make sure that we have a viable event. Thank you guys for coming. I'll stick around for a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to take some of the swag items that I laid out, except for my spin wheel. Don't take my spin wheel. And if you have the charging pad, I didn't bring the cord, so you may want to leave that. But anything else you guys feel free to take and use in your businesses, and hopefully that'll help you recruit at the job fair. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.